down the field. Happy tossing dimes, couple $1 million deal. Fantasy football, better know it's real. Tune into the podcast, tell us how you feel. We be going live, best believe we talk.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Football from Up North podcast. It's Clayton here, and joining me today is our very own rookie film junkie, Riley. Riley, what's up?
Not much. Excited to be back on the podcast again. So
yeah, it's been a while. Like to have you on during these ones because you're like you said, you get ready for rookie drafts by watching a ton of film. And yeah, that's basically you're the guy I go to when I have a few questions about, certain prospects and stuff like that. So basically today, that's what we're going to touch on, some rookie running backs in this year's class ahead of the draft, which is in just over 3 weeks in Vegas, a place that we are both going to be attending. It's going to be pretty exciting. We're going to be helping host an event with 49ers Rush podcast with John Chapman, also with Dale, with my host basically of Eat Sleep Fantasy, Dale DeMott. And if you guys want to check that out, head over to the 49ers Rush podcast website and buy tickets. It's going to be a blast. Fred Warner is going to be there. Eli Mitchell should be a ride. I'm really pumped for it. So basically, without further ado, man, let's just jump into it. We got a lot of guys we're going to touch on. We're not going to touch on the top 3 guys that everybody is talking about, like Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and Isaiah Spiller. Everybody's kind of heard about them. Everybody, knows what to expect out of them. So we're going to talk about, 7 or 8 other guys that we're going to discuss and kind of go from there. First guy I want to touch on is Zamir White from Georgia. 5'11", 215 pounds. The one thing that stood out to me was his performance at the NFL Combine. Obviously, I didn't really hear too much about him going into that, and then once I watched it, I was like, "Damn, I gotta kind of check this guy out." So, started to dive into a little bit of film, and there was a lot that stood out for me. We are like his size, 5'11", which is good, but another one was his speed. On tape, you could see White's burst and explosiveness stand out, and not to mention he ran. Ran almost the second fastest time. I think it was a 4:40.
Yeah, he ran a 4:40. Yeah.
So at the combine, that was impressive. Another thing that I caught on tape was his vision. He seems comfortable working between the tackles, sees the field from all angles, and what's most impressive is his ability, to find space, and when the holes aren't necessarily there. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, what I found is that, like you said, he has that quickness to his game. He's pretty explosive. He has the vision, and not only that, but he's pretty hard to bring down for a smaller guy. One of those shifty guys, he's pretty hard to bring down. That's what I was going to say. Balance. He's got great contact balance. Doesn't often go down on first contact, and he's always fighting for those extra yards. Always finishes forward as well. So that's something you want to look into. Look as far as a running back goes, can he pick up those extra yards? How is he? Is he just a guy that gets hit once and falls down, or can he get those extra yards after contact? So that was a big thing for me. And you know what? The last thing that I was quite impressed with is the fact that his gameplay speed. A lot of running backs are just going to be the north-south runners, but if the block isn't there, White just seems to easily just, bounce on the outside, and he's going to make plays that way instead. So I think he's going to go a lot higher in drafts than people think. I think if you just kind of give him a shot, but as far as those all go, I like what I see as far as Zamir White goes. Yeah, I think it'll depend on the team. I think a team could really like him just based off film and choose him high day 2 pick or something like that. Or yeah, there is some drawbacks with him, like his injury history. That's what people are really concerned with. And just that he was in a timeshare at Georgia with James Cook.
Yeah, well, that's go ahead.
As a runner, he's a fantastic runner. One of the most explosive guys in this draft class for me.
Yeah, you touched on his injury history, 2 ACL tears, but as far as I'm concerned, as far as the combine goes, I think he kind of put that to rest. I know there was concerns about it. I know he had one in high school, one in college, but as far as that goes, based on his production the last 2 seasons, I don't really think that's going to be a concern as much. On the other hand, when you do draft a running back, you're going to want to see, how is his all around game? He's got the stats for a rusher.
not as a
You ma-
passer.
you mentioned it earlier. You mentioned earlier in a timeshare with James Cook. He has 17 career receptions on his resume through 3 years in Georgia. So we're not quite sure what to expect out of him. I personally do think he would be, you know what, he probably is a better pass catcher than what obviously he was shown. But like you said, James Cook, which is another guy we'll touch on in later today, that was his role in college, right? So I'm curious to see, you know, what kind of hands he does have at the next level. And the last concern I do have, and I will say this, and with most rookies today, is pass protection, right? I mean, every year we talk about how, you know, how they struggle with pass protection at the next level. That's just something that's going to be coached, and that's where I don't think it should be that huge of a drawback on his draft stock.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Want to get into the next guy here, Rachaad White.
Yeah, you love this guy.
Love him. Arizona State running back. He didn't do much until this last year. Put up 1,000 yards, 5.5 yards per carry. He's one of those, like, he's more like an athletic guy. Like, his athleticism is off the charts, like, for this class. There's a lot of question marks with him, though, just because he is just that athletic guy. He's not as, like, technical as these other running backs in the class, but this guy, like, when you talk about playmakers, he's a playmaker. Like, every time I saw him touch the ball, big play after big play with this guy. Lateral quickness is there. His burst is there. His vision's there. I just think he needs those extra touches. And I think a team really could like him, just like Zamir White, and they could take him early in this draft.
Yeah, you mentioned basically, you know, he's a 3-down work. He's a 3-down back is what he is. He's got the size, good hands. He kind of did everything that he needed to do, you know, going into last year at Arizona State. That was clearly his, you know, biggest year out of the 2 years that he did play. He had almost 200 attempts for 1,000 yards rushing, but he also had 43 receptions for almost just over 450 yards. So those are the kind of that's what you want to see in a back. That's what a lot of coaches are going to look at, right? Going into the draft, you know, can this guy be a bell cow back? This guy's definitely proved that he can. He's a patient runner, I found. And yeah, basically he's got it all, just like you had said. And now, is there any things that are holding you back from, like, what are your negatives on him?
The one thing I did see is that, like, he's pretty elusive, so it's not too big of an issue, but some plays I did see, he can tend to, like, go down on first contact a lot. So that could be improved upon, and some GMs might not like that coming into the draft. But that was the biggest thing, honestly, for me, and his pass protection as well.
Yeah, those are my two knocks on him. I was just about to mention, if you didn't, was his below average contact balance. It did seem a lot of the time he did go down on first contact, pass protection, and another thing I noticed is he lacks breakaway speed.
I don't think he does.
Yeah. Oh, really? I don't know. From what I've seen, I don't know. Maybe you're seeing something that maybe I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I was on film, he's honestly one of the, like, most fun players to watch on film. Just every time this guy touches the ball, you know he has the ball because he's gone. So, yeah, that's about all I have on Rachaad White here.
Yeah, and I do think he'll be day two pick.
Yeah, I'd say a day 2 pick. He has that, he has those receptions in his arsenal, right? Like 43 receptions on the year last year. A lot of these running backs in the class are lacking that, and I think he showed he can do it all. He can play 3 downs. So day 2 pick for me.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. Next thing I'll talk about Alabama State running back Brian Robinson. Tell me what you think about him.
I honestly go back and forth with Brian Robinson. Like, he is that big, like, he has that NFL size that you like to see in a running back. He was used like a workhorse, and he does kind of have that game speed in his arsenal as well. The only thing with him for me is, like, his vision was kind of very inconsistent on the year, and, like, he runs super straight up and down, which is not what you want to see in running backs in the NFL. You want them to be lower to the ground so they have that contact balance. But like, he has the athleticism. He does have that game speed, and he has that big size. So I honestly go back and forth with him, but I have him like outside my top 5 for
Yeah,
sure.
my concerns, well, basically talk about on the positive side of it. Yeah, you mentioned it, size. He's a good in short yardage situations. He's done that. I find he does run violently. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe me and you are also maybe not in agreement with that. You're saying that he's, very upright. I find he's more of a plotter though. My biggest concern with him is all we have seen out of him. He was in college for 5 years, and one of those years he was a featured back. The other 4 seasons that he was there, he combined for 274 carries, just over almost 1,400 yards and only 15 touchdowns. Now going to his stats from last year when he was the bell cow guy, now we're looking at 270 yards, over 1,300 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. Caught 35 balls.
35.
Yeah. So he's got that skill set as well, that 3-down skill set. My concern is like, what took him so long to get to that point? You know what I mean?
I think that's just a drawback
In Alabama,
of being in Alabama, to be honest with you. But it is concerning just because when you see a guy who only has that 1 year of production and it's later, like he was a senior when that happened. So like when you see that means he broke out as an older player. So he has the advantage of the experience and the bigger frame that comes with being older, right? So he's versing these freshmen, these sophomores in college. So it's kind of hard to test your skill set against guys the same age as you.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It took me a little while to kind of get on board with him. I did see, many comparisons to, guys like Chris Carson, guys like that, hopefully minus the injury history. So, but I do like him, and like he's most likely going to be a second round pick, like most of these guys that we're going to talk about. I don't see many of them going in the first round. But I do think we're going to see them fly off the board in the round 2 on day 2. So, all right. Another guy I will talk about. I like this guy. You dislike this guy big time.
Oh,
so Dameon Pierce, Florida. I think he's amazing. Good sized running back. Displays consistent progress in his game. To me, when I'm watching tape, I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm going to see, can I see what they see as far as vision goes and stuff like that? What I liked about him was how patient he was while he was waiting for the holes to develop in front of him, right? He's waiting for those blocks to come out. And if he didn't see them, next thing you know what he's doing, he's going to, he finds a hole and he hits it with burst every single time. He's a hard runner, rarely goes down on first contact. And like I said earlier, patience for blocks to develop. He can squeeze through those, the smaller holes that are being built for him, and he can make something happen. So, and he's a powerful runner. That's the one thing. And he runs north-south. So,
yeah, I can see that with him. Like he's a really physical runner. Obviously, he has that size. There's just way more negatives I see with him than most people see. Like he never had one good year of production. His highest last year, 2021. 574 yards. That was his highest year of production for him. He was never used as that workhorse. He doesn't have that speed. And he just looks slow on film. Like his direction changes aren't fast by any means. Yeah, I honestly don't, he's not even in my top 10 for this class. I know a lot of people like him, but I don't know. He just looks slow to me on film, man. Like he doesn't have that workhorse production, and he doesn't even have one good breakout year of production at all.
Yeah, I do see where you're coming from in that, basically he was never given the opportunity to be a feature back. He does lack speed and quickness. I have that in my notes as well. Basically the speed and quickness, because he's a north-south runner, I don't really think about the speed that much, but what does concern me is, can he bounce around to the outside and make plays, which I don't think he can. He doesn't have, that quickness to do that. And he has no second gear. That's the one thing I noticed. He's a one, like, how would you say that? one gear guy when it comes to, he's very often he doesn't beat defenders in the open field. So
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he hits the hole and he hits it hard. Like he's like I don't want to say goal line back, like that's a little negative, but like he's more like a 1-2 down back for me. Like I don't think you're not going to have him on any outside runs like that, like crazy, because he can't beat that edge. He can't beat that linebacker to the edge.
And I'm in the same agreement with you. I just think, although he does lack the speed, I still think he possesses the size, and he has a well-rounded game, which I think is going to make it, easy for him to transition to the next level. But when I say that, though, I'm also saying day 2 pick as well. But I think he's going to be, and I think he will be, a solid contributor when it comes to working in tandem with somebody. You know what I mean? When he's more of he's not going to be a featured back, I don't think, in the NFL. But do I think if he's given the opportunity, do I think he's going to succeed in that role? That I do.
Yeah, so, and one we'll leave on a good note with him. One good thing about him too, he didn't have that many receptions, but when he did, like when they did give him the chance, he did display that like good route tree you want to see out of a running back in the NFL. So that was a positive thing. Like he does have the catch ability in his arsenal.
Yeah,
and decide to use him that way.
Exactly. And I mean, he turned a lot of heads at the combine. There was a lot of good takes that come out of the combine with him. So I'm going to be curious to see where he goes, and it's like I said, it's going to be based on it, like any of these running backs. And we can talk about Breece Hall as well. It's all going to depend on where these guys land. You know what I mean? Where they get drafted in situations they get drafted in. So another guy I like, James Cook, another Georgia running back. Now, can you believe it? I bet you didn't know this, Riley. Did you know he's the brother of Dalvin Cook?
He looks more like Dalvin Cook than Dalvin Cook does.
Yeah. That's all you hear. That's the first line in anything you read on James Cook is the younger brother of Dalvin Cook.
He runs like him too. Like it's crazy. He runs like Dalvin.
I do. Yes and no. He's a great runner. He ran a 4.42 at the 40 at the combine. I think his vision's good. He's a very versatile back with great hands. Like it's not even just good hands; it's great hands. The thing with him is he's going to need to be in a scheme that's going to showcase his speed and one-cut running style, in my opinion. And the fact he was utilized heavily in the passing game at Georgia, that's why I do think that he's going to come off the board a lot earlier. He could come off the board, at probably. Would you say? Would you put him in your top 5?
No, I like when I said he runs like Dalvin Cook, I meant like he runs like Dalvin. Like when you see him in open space, I actually am not a fan of James Cook at all.
Yeah.
I think Zamir White's the better Georgia running back, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier.
He's just more of like a raw prospect to me, James Cook. Like he has that athleticism, he has that quickness, but like he doesn't have that technique. I don't think I know you said he has some vision. I think he's really inconsistent with his vision. Like he's best when you give him the ball in open space.
Yeah.
If you give him the ball on a screen pass or something like that, like he's gone.
Yeah, and
but
the fact
is he just needs that experience. And yeah, like he was never used as a workworkse, so
yeah, and a huge thing too is like when you come to his style of play as far as pass catching goes. I mean, Georgia lined him up all over the field. He's running routes on the outside, played out a slot. So I mean, he's got he's got the pass catching ability, which I think that in itself is going to play a part in when he gets drafted and why, like he's going to get drafted as a pass catching running back, not a 3-down workhorse. As far as my, the knocks, and I have this right in my notes too. I'm like, don't let this fool you. The fact that, his last name's Cook, because these guys are, I think, like you just said, I think they have completely different game styles. James is a smaller back. He's never been a 3-down workhorse like his brother. And you will not see him win with power. He's that type of back that, like you said, you throw a screen pass to him, he's going to be gone. And yeah, I think he does. He is a lot better in open space than he is, running through the tackles.
Yeah, for sure.
Lead off, end with this couple other things here. As far as how he transitions into the NFL, he's going to most likely be a change of pace back to start the year. But I'm kind of curious to see if he is given the opportunity, if he'll be able to carve out a bigger role for himself just because of the versatility in the passing game, you know?
Yeah, honestly, like these guys, like same thing. I kind of had them similar like last year. I kind of comped him to like Elijah Mitchell coming into the draft. Like he's that raw prospect guy where he just has this, like he has that top end speed. Like he's probably one of the fastest guys in this draft. Ran a
No way.
4.42, but like
I got
I just
another
don't
guy. I
think
got
he
another
has.
Eli Mitchell guy coming up, buddy. You don't be
I
putting Elijah Mitchell in this guy's business.
I'm not saying now. I'm just saying like going into the draft last year, I kind of view these guys similar where there's a lot of hype on them, but like I just don't see it like they have that top end speed. But it'll
Yeah.
be I don't know. It's always different when you see them in the NFL and when they actually get that opportunity because Georgia did him no favors with the
Yeah.
opportunity they gave
No,
him.
exactly. All right, talk about the next guy we have on the list, Tyler Allgeier. Is that how you say his name?
Allgeier, I
Allgeier?
think. Yeah, BYU running back. This guy I really like. I'm debating between putting him in my top 5 or at number 6, but this guy I really like because when I look at a guy, I like looking at the film, but I also like looking at the analytics. I kind of combine them. And when you look at this guy, he had 2 years monster production in those 2 years. 7.5 yards per carry in 2020, which is insane. And then the second year, 2021, he put up 1,601 yards, which you don't see often from these guys. You don't see that multiple years of production from these guys. He has that, like he's big running back, very big running back, very physical, hard to bring down. And like when he makes that cut, he goes with all his force into that hole. Couple drawbacks with him that people might not like is he doesn't have that breakaway speed. He's not that top end speed guy. And like he can be seen as more of that in between the tackles runner. But honestly, I think he can be a workhorse in the NFL, and I'm surprised that a lot of guys aren't jumping on this bandwagon with him right now. Like he scored 23 touchdowns last year.
And once again, it took me a little bit of time too. I don't know why. I think because at first I started just doing all my research on, the named guys, the guys that I'm hearing about nonstop, right? Because I want to hear what all the hype is about. So these guys kind of fall back a little bit, I think, in my opinion. But when I started watching him as well, and I would agree with you as well, I like the size. I find he's patient, great vision. His pass protection is probably one of the best in this class. He's durable. And he's a very physical runner. Like all those traits right there that, like you said, are definitely, I'm not sure I could get him in my top 5, but I could definitely see how somebody could say, he's their fifth running back behind, those top three guys that you were talking about.
Yeah. And he has the hands to make the catches out of the backfield too. He reminds me a lot of my NFL comp with him, obviously a bit slower, but Zeke Elliott, to be honest. Like when he hits the hole like Zeke Elliott, and he's just physical, like with the linebacker. Like you can tell, like when he lines up across from the linebackers, like they don't want to initiate that contact with him a lot of the times.
I saw a lot of what I think James Conner. When James Conner was, in his rookie year, you know what I mean? So, yeah, like you said, maybe some knocks on him, or like you said, it takes him a few more steps to get to that top end speed. And the other thing that's kind of concerning is just his limited route tree experience, right? Like when a lot of these backs we talk about, when we talk about James Cook, like he was lined up all over the field. I don't think Allgeier was never really given that opportunity, but when he did have the opportunity to catch the ball, he was perfectly fine. So that's just going to be one of those things. I'm curious to see where he lands, to be honest with you. I would love him to land with the Texans personally. I would love to have a guy that a 3-down back like this guy to take the reins. So
yeah.
Anything else on him?
No, I think that's well covered.
Okay, well now you're going to have to try to sell me on this guy because you're mad crushing on this guy, Kyren Williams in Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, I really like this guy. A lot of people had him hyped up initially, and then a lot of people are dropping him off their boards now because of his combine, because of his size. Now people are Now people are concerned with that. But for me, he's one of the best all-around guys in this class. 42 receptions last year, so he can catch the ball, 204 attempts. he has that 2 years of production. Like in 2020, he put up even better numbers than he did in 2021. He has that contact balance. He has those quick feet. He's really hard to bring down as well, even though he is only 5'9", 194 pounds, like people are concerned with. He is very hard to bring down. And he has that elusiveness too. Like he's very well balanced in the way he runs. He has a good route tree, and he's the best pass protector in this draft class at 194 pounds. His pass protection was insane watching him on film.
Okay, I'm going to lie to you now. When we were talking about this, I was telling you how, he's outside my top 10. He's outside. After I started doing a little bit of research on him, I could see where you're going with this guy. Biggest thing was in year 2, almost 1,500 yards total. That's in his second season. He's patient. He's got amazing acceleration. Like watching when he does hit those holes and he does get through, he's gone. And it's not even close. So good receiver. Had almost 80 receptions over 2 seasons, I believe.
Yeah.
And then Pat, like you mentioned, pass protection was amazing. Excellent start and stop ability. That's amazing. Like, I mean, he is one of the probably, like you said, probably one of the best running backs in this class. And who do you have him comp for? That's the one thing.
I couldn't find a comp for him. It was hard. I don't know. I just couldn't get a right comp for him, so I never put one down. But the one thing I will say about him is that I never put a lot of focus into the combine numbers with these guys, just because game speed is way different. And he's one of those guys where like he ran a 4.65 at the 40.
Yeah.
You watch him on tape, looks nothing like that. Like he blows by guys. He has that burst. A couple drawbacks I did have with him is that sometimes he is too patient in the backfield and he won't hit that hole immediately.
See, I was just about to mention that. I find that he's indecisive at times and very hesitant at the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? Like when, like you said, a lot of guys will see like a small opening and that's what they'll go hit. He's very, you know what I mean?
I feel like that's just one of those things that can be worked on though. I feel like that's stuff these guys do in college just to try and make those plays out of nothing when they don't have to be. And I feel like that's very fixable when you get to the NFL. Another thing that could be fixed, but I did have as a drawback for him, is he tends to bounce outside a lot. Like as soon as a hole slightly closes up, he'll bounce it outside. So I think, like I said, I think that can be still worked upon in the NFL. But yeah, that's all I really had for him. And his size, of course, it's not ideal. 5'9", 194, but he does have that. I hope someone gives him a 3-down chance in the NFL because he does have the skill set for it.
You know who I comped him to? You'll like this comp because you like this player. He's an Austin Eckler type running back. If you look at Austin Eckler, how he is right now with the Chargers, that's exactly the type of, I think, player that Williams can be in this draft or wherever he gets drafted. Sorry. So, all right. Now, do you have a sleeper in this draft? Like, is there a guy that stands, like just a guy that nobody's really talking about, that you kind of just we're watching film and something caught your eye about him? Is there a guy that you really like?
I have a couple actually, but I'll just talk about one. The other guy I won't mention is Jashawn Corbin. But I'm actually going to talk about Kennedy Brooks from Oklahoma. He is a very interesting prospect because when you watch him on tape, he honestly might be the best pure runner in this draft class. He put up last 2 seasons, put up 1,253 yards in 2021. He didn't play in 2020, but in 2019 he put up 1,000 yards, and in 2018 he put up 1,000 yards as well. He has the best college production out of any of these running backs. Consistently, he has that young breakout age, very high yards per carry. Like he was averaging almost 6.5 yards per carry all 3 seasons he played. He's very physical, very hard to bring down, and he has very good vision when he's hitting the holes. His drawback is that he wasn't at all involved in the passing game. So that was the only thing. But I honestly think he won't be a 3-down back in the NFL, but he's a very good runner. I think people should he might be a shocking day 2 pick for some NFL teams out there.
Interesting. I have not even actually re-looked at any tape of him, but I'm definitely going to do that. I got a guy here, South Dakota State running back Pierre Strong Jr. You know, when it comes to draft class, there's always that one running back that just comes out of nowhere and produces, right? And for example, you kind of mentioned him in another guy we were talking about, Elijah Mitchell, just like last year, right? I mean, he was drafted later. You know, Trey Sermon was supposed to be the guy. All of a sudden, Mitchell gets his chance, and look where he is now, right? Now I think he's going to be, you know, consensus probably top 16 pick or top 16 running back on the boards in draft this year. But, you know, I personally think that Strong could be that guy. He ran for almost 1,700 yards last year, had 18 touchdowns. He's got good speed, athleticism, and he should make the transition to the NFL a very easy one. He's a big back, and he's a home run threat. That's the thing. He's got 10 career rushing touchdowns of 50-plus yards. So, I mean, that alone tells you he's got breakaway speed, right? Like, I mean, if he beats you, he's gone, right? When it comes to his running style, he's at his best when he can make that early cut, and then he just gets north and south. Like, he'll just be gone. So, I personally think wherever he ends up, he'll be most likely in a committee. But I think he's like one injury away, just like Mitchell, one injury away from being the guy and running with it.
Yeah, I like Pierre Strong too. It's one of those things when you play at a smaller school like that, it's hard to judge guys like that with the competition level they play against. So that's the only thing. And then a couple things I did notice with him is he does go down on that first contact a lot when he does get hit early. He can be indecisive, and that's
why he's so fast. That's because he doesn't want to get hit.
Exactly. And then the one like big drawback I did see with him is that in South Dakota State they use him on a lot of outside runs. So they were doing stretch plays where the quarterback's handing off the ball over here. They're not like he's not hitting the hole in the inside, right? Like you want to see out of the NFL, and in the NFL they don't do a lot of those stretch plays.
Yeah, like and I think that's where they kind of, you know, I think that's why he probably isn't talked about as much, because they didn't do for his, what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't give him those opportunities that he was in what's the word I'm looking for? They basically didn't, they put him in a situation to fail, put it that way, I guess, right? You know what I mean? Like, he can get through those tackles, he can hit those tackles hard, but instead they were trying to hand it off and making him go to the outside. Right? Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But no, I agree with you. I think if he was at any other school, I think we'd be talking about him, you know, in the same situation as, you know, those other guys we talked about earlier.
Yeah, he's one of the more explosive guys in the class, and he does have that vision. Surprisingly, out of a small school like that, but he does have that vision to work around the holes if they do close up.
All right, cool, man. Well, is there anybody else you want to touch on real quick, or you want to mention?
No.
All right. Well, I think that's cool. It. Yeah, no, I do. I enjoy doing this little rookie reports, and I think we're going to continue doing them. I think we said we're going to do them from each position, correct?
Yeah, receivers next, most likely.
Yeah, we'll do receivers, and then we'll probably combine, I would think, you know, the tight end class and maybe the quarterback class, because there's not too many guys we're going to be talking about. Depending on how long of the episode it could be, maybe we could do one of each. Who knows? But all right. So outside of that, guys, thanks for listening. Remember, if you haven't already downloaded the podcast, head over to wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple Music, Google, everywhere. We're pretty much anywhere and anywhere. And also, if you guys haven't already caught us on YouTube, go hit subscribe, hit that bell so that you guys are going to have, you know, anytime we do post something, we're going to be touching a lot on that this season. There's going to be a lot of videos posted and everything like that. And yeah, we just really appreciate the support, guys. And then until next time, peace.
Clayton caught a pig skin running down the field. Happy tossing dimes, $2 million